Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi, friends. So I have something to tell you, and it's a pretty big update here. I'm going to start with the fact that these past few months have probably been the hardest in my life, and it doesn't really match with the news that I'm going to tell you, which is that I'm pregnant with our third baby, and I'm so excited. I am so grateful. I'm so thrilled. Like, there are no words that can really express that sense of deep gratitude that I have to even be able to say this. Normally, this type of news is just so fun to share and only happy. But as many of you know, if you've been around here for a while, my pregnancies have been anything but easy or blissful. They've actually been the hardest things that I've ever done in my life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so this news, while my heart is so happy and again, so grateful, we wanted this. I've been praying for this new life and this baby growing inside me. To me, it's actually so disconnected from my experience in pregnancy itself. To me, they are two different things. Pregnancy and then thinking about another child coming into our family. And I'm sure that this is a trauma response for me, but that's the truth. They are two completely separate things, being pregnant and then adding a new baby to our family. But I wanted to just share and talk about what has been going on in my life lately. I think a lot of times when you hear about women being pregnant, it's this blissful and beautiful thing. Like, women are glowing, they're holding their belly, they're elated, and it is a miracle. Like, it truly is. But that can also be so far from the truth for so many women. Being pregnant, let alone even the road to get there, for so many women can be so hard and so dark and so challenging. So in sharing my update today, I'm hoping that maybe less women out there will feel alone, because pregnancy and growing your family is not always something that is only blissful. And I've learned that you can be so thankful while at the same time also having a really hard time. If you're new here, just to back up the story a little bit. So with my two children, I have had very intense pregnancies with both. With my first son, Noah, I was extremely nauseous and sick until about 20 weeks, so halfway through. I could only eat refried beans and rice and lemonade, and it was like, it just hit me. It came out of nowhere. It lasted for so long in terms of knowing what to expect, in terms of how that was going to shift both of our roles and our time, how that was going to change things, maybe impact our family in different ways, how that would impact my business in different ways. I just tried the best we could to try and set up those systems and talking about things and lining up extra childcare and, asking our nanny if she'd be willing to do more hours. And all of this was so funny because we didn't know for sure that I could get pregnant, that it would really happen. And so it was this kind of balance of trying to plan as best we could. And also you want to be hopeful that, hey, maybe it won't be so bad. Like, maybe I'll be in that 10% where it doesn't recur. And, or maybe it will take us so long that we'll kind of come to the conclusion that this is we're really happy as things are with our family as it is right now. So we tried to set up those systems or plan and talk and figure out how that would look and what that looks like having full-time help for my kids, and really truly being completely out of it. It's like, this is such a horrible comparison, but it's like living with someone with a terminal illness. Like, you are not able to be upright. You are not able to be walking around or helping your children or packing them lunch or taking them to school or dropping them off. Like, it is every part of your normal life is impacted with something like hyperemesis. And so just wrapping our heads around that and really feeling like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're doing this as a team. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And I think too, looking back on it, it makes me emotional to think about how brave I had to be and have to be to go through this experience. Like, to actively choose something that I know will be so hard and so challenging and so trying and such a horrible experience, truly, like, to be up for that because of listening to my heart, and listening to what really felt right to me and where I really wanted to see our family life go and having a bigger family. I knew I would cry in this episode, but just coming back to how brave you actually have to be to do things in your life that you really want, but that feel scary, or you don't know exactly how it's going to look, or exactly the timing, or exactly the plan. And I can think of so many women in the context of pregnancy, in the context of fertility, but also so many other things in life where you have to be that brave in your life to create the things that you want, or at least go after them. And if it works out differently, or if things go according to a different plan, then that's okay. And trying to surrender and continually following that, but at least being brave enough to go for the things and at least to try and see what happens. So for us, it was this wild flurry of, okay, we're talking it through. Let's just try. Let's go for it. We'll surrender to this process, whatever God wants for our family. I truly believed that, and I found a lot of comfort in that. So wouldn't you know, right away, even before we were trying, we got pregnant, which is such an incredible blessing. And to me, felt like, oh, wow, okay, this is supposed to happen. I think this is something we've been thinking of praying about. And wow, that feels like a sign. So what this also meant was that knowing last time that hyperemesis hit me around 5.5 weeks, which is so early. So I had this 1.5 week countdown of everything I could try and do to prep and plan ahead. It was like this ticking time bomb. I was like, I have 6 days left. I have 5 days left. I have 4 days left. Not only to take in the fact of this big life change, to try and be excited, but also there was just a lot of fear of like, I have this many days until my life completely shuts down. Like, I need to plan a lot of stuff for motherhood, for our kids, for childcare, but also for work. Like, also recording tons of podcasts and trying to set my business up in a way and let my team know right away and know when I was going down and that quickly, that it was a very stressful time. And one of the things I immediately did, I think because I learned a lot the first time, is that I called the midwives and my doctor immediately, and I set a virtual appointment up, explaining to them that I had HG before. And so I wanted to have contact with a doctor to be able to call someone or message someone if I needed to set up the medication, because the sooner you can start it, they say that helps. So At 5.5 weeks this time, it hit again. And not only did it hit strong, but it was worse this time. Like, I didn't even think that that was possible. So I have been flat in bed. At the time of this recording, I'm about 15 weeks. So I've been flat in bed for 15 weeks, 30 times a day, throwing up, heavily medicated, down 12 pounds in 6 days in that first week. Unable at this point to even go to the hospital to get IVs this time, even though last time that was a much easier journey because we lived closer to the hospital and I was able to somehow get myself there 4 times a week to do the IVs. This time I could not even sit up in bed, let alone go anywhere. So it meant a lot of time spent on the phone researching, trying to find companies that would come to my house and do it at home. I had 2 kids at home, trying to ramp up the childcare, trying to make it through the day. And the only service that I was able to find IV-wise was a company that sets up your IVs so that you self-administer them at home. So then not only was I flat in bed and feeling horrible and throwing up all the time and couldn't even keep a sip of water down, I'm not exaggerating when I say that then I had to learn how to self-administer my own IV bags of fluid. So I became my own nurse, had an IV port installed in my arm. I could not drive, I could not walk, I could not stand, I couldn't be on my phone. It just felt like you're a zombie. You're just like this shell of a human and also in so much physical pain. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced nausea to the intensity of that it never leaves, not even when you're sleeping. It is always that intense, and even with heavy medication, it is still there. I missed my kids so much, and it was such a hard adjustment because I had an IV port in my arm. I couldn't really hug them or hold them. I had to wear a robe for weeks at a time because it was the only thing that fit over the IV port in my arm. I couldn't shower because you can't get it wet without extreme tape. I couldn't even stand up to shower, so that was fine. But just asking and needing all the help, like being completely incapacitated. And at this point, I'm just going to be honest and tell you this, that all I could think about was this was such a bad idea. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I thought that. Then I kept going back to like, but this really feels meant to be. It happened so quick. It was almost like it just feels meant to be, but I just can't believe that this is the reality again. And not only that, but it's feeling worse this time. Needless to say, I've been very absent from work, from life, from my team, from motherhood, from anything having to do with my kids or their daily life and their daily activities, no cooking, like nothing. At around 13 weeks, so after the first trimester, is when I was able to start drinking water and keeping a little bit of it down so that not every time I had a sip of water, it would come right back up. So that was huge. And that also meant that slowly the IVs could go away and I could do them less. And every time I would do an IV, I would get this massive headache, I think because it messed with my electrolyte balance, and I'd end up getting these headaches and migraines that would last the entire next 24 hours. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, IVs are good and I need the fluid, but it also makes me feel even worse for the days after it. I just felt horrible. And to be honest, I still do feel horrible. I'm sitting in bed as I record this, just propped up. I can't even sit up fully, but at least around that 13-week time, the IVs could go and I could start drinking water on my own. I was still throwing up. there's about 4 foods I can eat right now, and they're very specific and very funny, but they're the only ones that consistently stay down. Now I'm around 15 weeks. I'm still in bed most days. I don't feel much better. I know that from last time, it usually didn't lift much until around 20 weeks or the halfway mark. But this time I just want to share this journey a little earlier and sooner because it's been so hard to feel like I can't say anything and I have no energy to say anything. And I also know that when I was able to share last time, like how much it really made me feel less alone in this process, and how many of you have also gone through similar things, even if it's been completely different, but similar times in your life when it really feels hopeless and dark. Currently, I think it's around 115 days that I have not left my house, the exceptions being 2 doctor's appointments. I'm throwing up less now, but I still am only feeling okay about 1 to 2 hours in the morning each day. So I haven't been able to go on walks. I have not been outside. I haven't gone on any outings. I have had help from my friends and family and our wonderful nanny and babysitters and sisters helping whenever they can because I'm still a shell of a human. I have lost all my muscle again, and there's part of me that feels a little nervous about that because last time, some of you may remember that when June was about 9 months old, I threw my back out, and then it turns out it was a herniated disc, and it was a full 1.5 year long process of healing my back and getting my strength back in my core, and all of that happened because of my experience in pregnancy with her, where I was flat on my back and lost all my muscles. I am trying to really remain positive and do the things that I can do on the days that I feel okay, to just lay on the floor next to my bed and try to do a few different core exercises and just try. It's funny. I'm not sure if it's really helping or doing anything. It's about once a week where I have energy enough to move from my bed down to the floor to do something like that. So I'm just trying the best I can and hoping that as the weeks go by, I'll be able to do a little bit more, knowing what happened last time, to really try as best I can to prevent that and really continue to put an emphasis on trying to take care of my physical body as best I can. But still, with all of this, I do feel so grateful. And every day I do spend time just loving on this baby and praying for them and sending them healing light and healing energy, and really envisioning that every night before I go to sleep. I put my hands on my stomach. I just pray, that they are getting everything that they need, even though I'm not able to give them anything, any nutrients. I can't even keep a prenatal down. So just praying for them. I've been doing daily meditations, which have been so helpful. In the beginning was just watching 2 or 3 movies on Netflix every day on my phone in bed. That was the only thing that could distract me enough from the pain and from what I felt physically. And I'm not even a movie person. So I got to watch all these movies that people have talked about for so long, and that was all I could do. And now that I'm in the 2nd trimester, even though I'm still not feeling great, I've started to do some courses, like business courses, and learning about different things. Learning keeps my brain engaged. I can do it at my own pace, like these online workshops. And that's also been helping my spirits, just like learning something new and being a student at something versus just movies all day. So right now, I'm still going to bed at 7:30, sometimes earlier than my kids. I'm still on very intense medication, and I have this countdown going for spring, praying and hoping that soon this will lift, soon it will lighten. I know that it's not going to happen just one day. I know that it's going to be this small incremental, like snail's pace of things that I might be able to do that weren't even possible before. Even the fact for me of sitting up in bed and being able to work for an hour a day is huge. I've just been counting all the things that have changed, and I report them to my best friends in silly voice notes every week of like, here's my update, here's what I can now do. Last week's win was that I could eat a piece of toast, and that was different than the 4 foods previously I've only been able to eat. So finding ways, I think, just mentally to help myself see progress and know it's not going to be this overnight thing where all of a sudden I'll pop up out of bed and feel better. I remember from last time, it's like you get maybe an hour or 2 here. The next 2 or 3 days you feel worse. And then maybe the 4th or 5th day you'll feel a little better. So I am just trying to be patient and give myself so much grace. And it is so hard to do, especially for someone who loves feeling good. And I'm someone who puts a lot of time and energy and truly just love into feeling good. And it is so hard not to feel good. It's so hard to not feel like you're in control. It's so hard to feel like you don't know when things will shift or change. You know that it's temporary. Like logically, I know that this is all temporary. But when I'm in it, it just feels hour by hour. Even little things for me mentally where I've had the checklist the first 15 weeks of another day done. I know that probably sounds negative, but some sort of way that I'm moving forward day by day, hour by hour, like going to get here. All this to say, I've been fairly quiet on social media. The last couple of weeks I have been able to pop in a little more and do some updates, but it's really been minimal. But this time has actually been a really big blessing in that way. And it's wild to me that I can already say that. But this pause has been a really big time to just reflect. I mean, I'm not doing anything else. I'm laying in bed all day, every day. So using this time to just reimagine some things and to think a little bit bigger. And how do I want Simply Real Health to feel? Like, what things do I want to be focusing on? What things do I want to be creating? What direction is it taking? And is there anything that isn't feeling as aligned anymore or isn't feeling right? And some of you may remember a couple of weeks ago me talking about the blog, doing our weekly blog post and our weekly favorites email, just wanting to check in with people. Like, are you still reading this? Do people still read blogs? Like, we put a lot of time and energy into making them, but I'm not sure people still read them. So thinking through things like that, which, by the way, it turns out people don't really read the blog anymore. And so we're just going to shift into using that as a space for more like a reference type post. So like clothing roundup, and if I do a current skincare routine, like places that you can go revisit if you missed it on Instagram and you want the specific links, we're going to use it more so for that. And changing our weekly faves into an every other week fave, because we know that everyone is so busy and we can still give you that great roundup of all the favorite things, but we'll just do it twice a month. Just thinking through, like, how do I, as the founder, want to be using my time? And I have some really fun things that I'm really excited about and ways that I'm wanting to shift things as I think about this next decade. Like, I'm going to be a mother of 3 children, 3 young children, all under 5. How do I want my life to look? But more importantly, how do I want it to feel? How do I want to feel when I am at work? Well, it better be feeling really worth my time, like really filled with things that fill my heart and in the ways that I want to be teaching and sharing and educating. Like, all of that stuff lights me on fire. And so wanting to do more of that stuff, more coaching, more teaching, maybe even smaller containers to do that, where it's more private or smaller type groups, more like mastermind groups or incubators. And I feel really excited about that and the direction that things are going to go once I am able to do a little bit more. So right now it's just been reimagining and sharing with my team. They have been so wonderful and just really running things behind the scenes and being down for my random voice notes when I do have the energy. So I do feel excited, and that this time will ultimately be a blessing to slow down, to pause, to reimagine, to shift some of the ways that we're doing things. And I do feel just truly excited about that. I do get jealous of other pregnant women that are thriving. Like, it is really hard to see pregnant women, maybe on Instagram or other people that I follow, or even friends in real life, that they're just loving their experience and that they're eating well and eating all this great food, and they're moving and traveling, and they're just in that really beautiful creative vortex. But all I can do right now is take it one day at a time and just really try to not compare myself. That there are, again, blessings to this journey. I can already see some of them already, and I know that there'll be more that reveal themselves with time. But this is just my journey to go through. And truly, I keep telling all of my friends, like, well, the good news is after this, I am all done, family complete. Like, I know that for sure. I will never do this again. And this usually makes the newborn stage so much easier, because truly nothing feels worse than being sick all day, every day, at an extreme level, not being able to eat, not being able to drink water, laying flat in bed, not being a part of your life. Like, losing a little sleep in the newborn stage, I am feeling great about life. Like, I can eat, I can drink water, I can move my body, I can get outside, I can get fresh air. It is just a completely different experience. Whereas maybe for somebody who has a very easy pregnancy, and then they're kind of, wow, this is a big change. Like, there's so many things that are different now after the baby arrives. So in that way, I do feel lucky. Like, once I am through this dark tunnel and the super challenging part, that I feel excited about what's to come and the end result of it, at least. But I also know the reality of this, and why I'm wanting to share this is that I know I'm not going to be fully back for a little while. I'm really hoping, like, by April, I will feel so much better. I'm hoping it's going to take the same pattern. But it's really been a couple of months of just having to constantly remind myself that when you go through more challenging seasons or harder times, like, that's when you really find out what you're made of. That's when you really find out, like, the work that you've done on yourself, on your mental health, on your emotional health, on your physical health. And just something that has helped me so much is this constant belief that I come back to, that I am going to come back from this. I'm going to come back from this mentally stronger, emotionally stronger. These seasons are not meant to take us down, but they can if you let it, and if you let those deep, dark voices take over. And so it has been this constant back and forth with myself. And I just want to be really honest about that, because I think a lot of times, especially with the work that I do, which is so tied into psychology and your mental health and your emotional health and your relationship to food and your relationship to yourself, and do you trust yourself? Like, do you feel brave enough in your life to make choices coming from your instinct and your intuition and your gut, and knowing that you'll be able to see it through, whatever it is? You're going to ride the wave and you're going to come out the other side better and stronger. And so that belief has really kept me going. And it's something that I just want to share with you, because I know that we all go through these times and seasons that are so hard and dark and can be so challenging, and it feels like it's never going to end. But thinking about who you're becoming in the process, how you have to talk to yourself, not only when things are great and going well, but when they're not, how you still show up for yourself, even when it feels like there's not much you can do and you are in a place of complete surrender, that there still are little things that you can do, like little ways that you can be talking to yourself, encouraging yourself, making the time pass in ways that you'll come out on the other side better and stronger. So much of going through a hard time in your life is staying steady with yourself, trying to take care of yourself the best you can, and whatever that means at that time, not comparing to other people, and how much patience and surrender and trust that truly takes to do that. And that it's so hard, but I think the people that we become after those seasons in life are really formative, right? They really change that deep trust and that deep respect of yourself, and they really change how you see the world, your capacity for doing hard things. It makes you take more risks and be more brave with your life in general, because you know that you can walk through, and you have walked through that fire, and how you come out on the other side. Another thing that's just been so helpful is sometimes it is so hard in the moment, but truly trying to think through the time that you're going through and thinking, what is there here for me to see or to learn or to reimagine or to think differently? Like, how is this time being given to me in some way, even though it might feel so hard to see a positive side? But what are the blessings that could come out of it? What is there for you to learn? Sometimes it's just the act of slowing down. Sometimes it's just the act of surrendering control. Sometimes it's the act of asking for help and receiving help without being able to give anything back to people. I think it's just this very humbling time. And I think we all have seasons like that where we're on the end of receiving that help from others and relying on others, and as best you can trying to rely and be there for yourself. Maybe one day, if you or your friend or some relative has an experience like HG, or is having a hard season in life or a hard season with fertility, that listening to somebody else's story will maybe make them feel less alone. So in sharing this, that's really my hope. And I know that I'm nowhere near the end of this. I wanted to share this like in process, not when it's all better and I'm magically back to feeling myself, but this in between time, because it is so much easier to say when you look back, oh yeah, that was fine. That was really hard, but I did it. But it's another thing to be like, I'm still in it. So that has been life as of late and currently. And I wish that there was a date or a time. I'm really hoping for April, like I said. But needless to say, this is the reason why I've been slower, quieter, not even showing up at all. And you know what? I have made peace with that. Like, I feel okay about that, and just trying to see this in the bigger picture. Like, I always come back to the bigger picture. Like, will this matter 5 years from now for my business? Even as a mom, this is not going to define me. It's only going to make me stronger in the end. That doesn't mean that every day is perfect and it's okay if it feels hard. And it has felt hard most of the time, but trying to hold this time and space with a little bit of an open palm, which is so hard to do. Like, we all want to control. I think especially me, I'm constantly working on my control issues over here. And having something like this where there's no defined date or time, like making plans, is a little hard because everything is so inconsistent at this point. Like my energy or how I'll feel. Like some days I've been fine to get up and film an Instagram story, and other days I could go 4 days after that without being able to get out of bed. So just taking it one day at a time and 1 hour at a time. But I will still be probably pretty quiet, but at least now you know why. Now you're on the inner circle. And I just feel so relieved to be able to talk about this. Like I said, with my other 2 kids, I shared much later in my pregnancy, just like announcing that I was pregnant. But this time around, I just really feel like there's a lot to be said about being in the middle of it, and that it's not perfect. And that is also very normal and very human, and that we just all go through times like that. So now you know, that's where I've been. This is where I am. And thank you so much just for listening and being here. This is not the most inspirational episode. But you know, it's real. So that's all I'm really aiming for here. Thank you guys so much for listening and for being a part of this community and supporting Simply Real Health just in all the ways that you do. And I just feel so lucky and so grateful. And even more excited about what's to come, I think, from this experience and being able to walk through it and put it behind me. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.